Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the October 12th, 2022 meeting of the Western New York Power Proceeds Allocation Board. I'm Tony Colucci, Chair of the Board. In the room with me is Dennis Alsenbeck and Paul Brown. Also, Brenda McDuffie's online, and our last board member is on her way, but I believe she was delayed by traffic. We're going to get going in the interest of starting on time and finishing on time, and the convenience of those who might be attending the meeting with other things to do in their life. I also want to welcome our Empire State Development and NYPA staff and thank them for the help that they give us in getting ready for this meeting and attending it and help. This, as you know, is a scheduled board meeting and it's been duly noticed as required by the open meetings law. And in preparation for it, we did distribute a proposed agenda for today's October 12th, 2022 meeting. Are there any questions about the agenda? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Brenda McDuffie moved the agenda.
Here we go. Brenda moved and Paul seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Carried unanimously. Karen, thank you. As you all know from our past meetings, our staff attempts to poll our members prior to the meeting to determine whether or not any of us may have a conflict of interest in connection with the business that may come before the board at any particular meeting. I know that all of you have previously been so polled, but from the time that you were initially contacted to today, certainly a conflict could arise. And so I'd like you to affirm for us for the record that in connection with today's application, which I believe you are all familiar with, you still no longer have a conflict of interest and will be able to participate fully in the consideration of that request.
I have no conflict.
Thank you, Dennis. Paul, thank you. Brenda?
No conflict, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you. And for the record, I likewise have no conflict. Karen? Moving on. Believe it or not, our last meeting was on February 3rd, 2021. We had some delay in having the second meeting based on our application status, and then some delay in getting a quorum in this room due to various things, I'm sure, like conflicts that relate to our day jobs or our health, or both. In any event, we're all here now. And you also had in your packet a copy of the minutes from our February 3rd, 2021 meeting. Are there any questions or concerns about the accuracy of those? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Moved by Dennis, seconded by Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Karen, that passed unanimously. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, a fund update. I'd like to call in Richard Smith, our able administrative support person, to give us a quick summary of the fund balance and any changes that have taken place since the last meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, you have in your packets the Western New York Economic Development Fund update for August of 2022. I'd like to review that with you. It is master page 25 if you're looking for it. Total deposits to the fund to date now equals $61,477,000. Total interest earned on deposits to date equals $833,585, making total funds deposited equal to $62,310,585. As to expenditures, there has been zero spent for total administrative expenses. Disbursements to grantees amounts to $35,912,700. Making the current fund balance equal to $26,397,885. As to awards, under standard projects, we have $33,164,976. For energy-related projects, we have $6,827,439 awarded, making the total fund benefits awarded equal to $39,992,415. And so the total fund benefits available to be awarded by the Western New York Power Proceeds Allocation Board is equal to $22,318,170. As for energy-related projects, the minimum amount of is 15% of the fund dedicated to energy-related projects. This amounts to $9,221,550. Total awards under this category amounts to 11%, or $6,827,439, which makes the fund benefits currently available to be awarded for energy-related projects equal to $2,394,111. Today's recommendations amounts to one award for $35,000, and this falls under the energy-related projects category. As for the underlying power that supports the program, there is 151 megawatts of estimated unallocated expansion and replacement power, and 71 megawatts of allocated but unused hydropower underwriting the program. This amounts to a total estimated unutilized EP and RP available supporting the program of 222 megawatts. There is additional detail on the final pages of that particular report. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the group may have.
Before we get to questions, I just want to acknowledge, and for Karen's benefit, to record that our colleague Deanna has joined us. Welcome, Deanna.
I'm sorry for being late.
That's okay. No problem at all. Questions for Richard in connection with the fund balance?
Just Chair, yeah, Rich, with the way energy prices are starting to now go a little interesting, maybe going a lot higher than traditional, has NYPA looked at the potential impact on the fund balance in terms of its projections versus kind of like, historically and probably until recently, not a lot has been added because prices have been somewhat down, but now it seems like they've been going up. So I didn't know if there was a sense that.
So, right, projecting is very difficult, as you know.
Yeah.
But I would say in the last 9 months, we've had roughly $18 million deposited into the fund because energy pricing has escalated.
Which is more than we've had deposited, except for the initial tranche
That is
at any
correct.
given time.
Yep.
Right.
So we were down to about 4 million. Now we're up to about $22 million in the fund. So
Yeah.
hard to predict where the market's going, but certainly we've enjoyed, some benefits of high energy prices if that's.
And that's why I was asking. So if you look at the levels of inactivity we've had, is it time to relook at some of the general criteria or eligibility that might be out there to get more creative on issuance, especially, really in promotion of economic development activity? I don't know if this is even possible, Chair, but, the idea that you have so much unallocated hydro is alarming. Personally, right? Because the whole objective is it's economic activity. And if we have a lot of unallocated, it means we're not having as much activity as we would have hoped. I don't know if that's feasible, Chair.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, but one moment. I'm sorry, was there somebody joining us?
Be a reporter.
That's fine. Welcome them in, sit down. It's an open meeting. We have someone joining us?
Yes, this is Dale Shoemaker.
Yeah.
Investigator.
Come on in, Gail. Sit down. Sit right here or sit right there. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Dennis, you bring up a good point. I think that, our efforts to encourage folks to use the available funds have been somewhat limited by the amount of funds that have been left because we've allocated most of what we had up until recently. You're right, with the increase of energy prices, our so-called loose juice has become more valuable.
Yeah.
And now we've had an infusion of an additional $18 million. I am assuming that Empire State Development has, as it has in the past, uses the assets from this particular fund as it does the other incentives that it can generate to market potential new business, if you will, into the state of New York. And what I think you're asking for is a report back on how we plan to do that in the future, given the fact that we have more to give now.
Yeah, and Chair, given that New York has set such aggressive climate action goals, there's been such a great deal of activity from an economic development point of view of looking at New York from a supply chain point of view. And that's why I'm asking is we're in different times, in other words. And so does these differing times provide an opportunity to rethink the original objectives to include almost like the fund balance is an attraction to rebuild an energy ecosystem in New York. I don't know, Chair. I'm just,
Yeah,
So there's lots of ways to look at that question. By statute, 50% of the fund is energy related. So I think there's opportunity there. But remember too, the term proceeds, right? The revenues are coming from the sale of our power.
right.
And we're continuously focused on, it seems more and more on energy type companies. So think about Electrovia down in Dunkirk, right?
Yeah.
Lithium ion battery company. Air Products up in Messina. That was another huge project. They're going to be producing green hydrogen, Plug Power at Stamp. These are all recipients or beneficiaries of our underlying hydropower program that supports proceeds.
Yeah.
So I can tell you personally, there's a ton of activity in that space right now. Air Products was a humongous project for Messina. But we're seeing more and more of that, Dennis, constantly going on. And we're seeing, chip manufacturers too. You may have seen some.
Yeah.
so
Recent
it
press
may
about
not be,
micro.
it may not be a bad idea for our next meeting, for example, to have a presentation from ESD and or NIPA about how it is that it's packaging the available incentives to prospective businesses in the state of New York, without giving away any, what I would characterize as competitive information that might otherwise, should otherwise be held in confidence until it actually comes to fruition.
Right.
But, discussing how it is that we have this collection of tools. Here's how we see the Western New York Economic Development Fund money from the Power Authority come into play with that. I mean, we have lots of credits and those types of incentives, but there's still, as I know, I believe, we're the only cash cow, so to speak. So if there's money that's going to be added to the end to sweeten the deal, it could come from this source, and how they package that and what they're proposing to do going forward. I think that would be a good exercise, and I think it would answer your question.
No, I would really appreciate. I sit on the Climate Action Council, and I will tell you, there's not enough alignment to make me comfortable between agency to agency on this opportunity. And I think it's the biggest opportunity I've ever seen. If it results in economic activity, because that's the return to the taxpayer and the ratepayer, right? And that's so I appreciate you reframing it. That's the way I was
Is that
looking
something
at
you
it.
can work on for our next?
Yeah.
Thank
Just a quick answer for that. I speak monthly with Empire State Development. Lori Abinator and I are very tight. We go through our list of projects. So there is alignment with, Empire State Development. Secondly, there's probably about a half a dozen organizations we're talking to right now. So I think one of the points you made earlier is very important to understand that when you get $18 million coming into the fund, it suddenly looks like you're not moving the money. Yes and no, we're a little bit of a.
I didn't mean it that way, Rich.
I'm just gonna.
When was the last time we've met was my point.
It was about a year ago.
That's really my.
Yeah.
And keep
And I don't
in
know.
mind too, I think we're kind of coming out of COVID and there's a lot of,
Yeah.
there's a lot of that going on. I think we're going to start seeing more activity. I was on the phone yesterday with Niagara County IDA. They're anticipating more activity in their loan fund, for example. So I think we're going to start to see more of that as time progresses a little bit.
Which is fine, but it wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Just to,
Yeah.
we did it, we've done it in the past, where
Yeah.
we've talked about how it is that we fit into the economic development incentives that we're offering businesses.
Yeah.
For New York State development, and it wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Administration has changed, years have passed. Pandemic has gone by the wayside, hopefully. And refocus our efforts and make sure that our board members have their questions answered on that.
Absolutely. That was just kind of a quick answer. Just
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
thanks, Chair.
Good? Good.
Yes, thank you.
All right, well, let's hold that for our next meeting.
Great.
Any other questions for Richard with respect to the fund balance? Brenda, you good up there?
Yes, I'm very good. It's actually good to see our fund balance increase dramatically because we had really provided tremendous number of grants in the community that have yielded great results for the community. So it's good to have it replenished. And I agree with Dennis, making it available and active part of particularly Western New York strategy, since we're limited to within 30 miles of the power plant in terms of giving grants. I do believe, Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, or staff, but Western New York could be a tremendous beneficiary. And in fact, it may give us an edge. So let's make sure that everybody continues to coordinate and utilize that as another way in which we give ourselves a competitive advantage in an industry sector that we all know is going through dramatic changes, and we all need to be mindful of relative to our environment and future.
Yes, thank you, Brenda. I appreciate that very much. Okay, any other questions? Very good. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this is round 28 of our consideration for benefits to be allocated by the Western New York Power Proceeds Allocation Board. So I'd like to ask Richard again to take the floor and give us the presentation for the application that's being presented today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's staff is recommending that the Power Proceeds Allocation Board recommend a fund benefit award of $35,000 to Niagara University to support a campus-wide study that will focus on the feasibility of NU using green hydrogen to reduce carbon emissions caused by its consumption of carbon-based energy. Niagara University is a 501c3 founded in 1856 by the Vincentian priests. It is the sole baccalaureate or higher degree conferring institution in Niagara County and employs 600 plus full and part-time faculty and staff to provide degrees in arts and sciences, business and teaching, and hospitality and tourism curriculums. The university operates over 40 buildings and general infrastructure facilities on 160 acres of land located in northern Niagara County. NU intends to engage a qualified consultant to produce a campus-wide survey of its natural gas distribution network, including piping locations, sizing material, compatibility, and individual building demand. Articulate a demonstration-based hydrogen blending strategy with suggested percentages, electrolyzer location and sizing, proposed number of fuel cell vehicles, and overall power and water supply strategies. Provide a high-level cost estimate and preliminary layout for an electrolyzer-based hydrogen production system, hydrogen compression, storage, blending, and fuel cell vehicle dispensing equipment. Define decarbonization benefits with estimated carbon intensity index scores and cost per ton of CO2 removed. Outcomes of the study are expected to inform the applicant's development of an implementation plan for achieving decarbonization, which may include a demonstration project focused on electrolysis-based production of low-cost, renewable hydrogen that would be utilized for such strategies as blending green hydrogen into the applicant's existing natural gas distribution system for individual buildings or possibly campus-wide, using hydrogen to support a small fleet of fuel cell vehicles for campus use, using hydrogen to provide critical backup power, development of next generation hydrogen-based heating, cooling, and other power generation equipment. Project costs are comprised of those directly related to the proposed study. Several aspects of this project support recommendation favoring a fund benefit award. When implemented, measures recommended by the study will reduce end-use carbon footprint and contribute to the protection, preservation, and enhancement of natural resources in alignment with New York's Community Leadership Climate Protection Act. Address green infrastructure, storm resiliency, safe and accessible and well-planned public spaces, and green buildings, energy efficiency, and renewable energy, all smart growth principles that consider economy, equity, environment, and energy to help create a more livable, sustainable, and equitable community. Support Niagara County's comprehensive economic development strategy, adopted and submitted to the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration in June of 2020. Specifically, the report identifies renewable and alternative energy sources as priorities for development and aligned well with key Western New York REDC strategies and priorities. The 2021 Western New York REDC Annual Report indicates a focus to, quote, encourage smart growth planning and climate change, policy frameworks to maximize spatial efficiency, conserve resources, and make local communities more resilient, increase energy efficiency in building stock and building systems, set the stage for renewables to flourish and encourage transition to renewables in line with the state goals, and assess the impact of sustainability policy and programs to ensure equitable outcomes for all individuals and communities, end quote.
Thank you, Richard. Before I open the floor to questions, I have a couple of my own. Has Niagara University, assuming that this board approves the staff's recommendation and NIPA approves our recommendation, has Niagara University given you any sense as to how long they expect the study to take before they come out with the recommendations that they anticipate receiving?
Yes, they have. On the recommendation memo, I believe there's a start and completion date. I don't have that in front of me. Just if you flip that to the front page. So expected to begin October 1st. Obviously, we're a little late on that. And to finish March 31st, 2023.
So they're anticipating about a 6-month study?
Yes, sir.
All right. And will the report that is eventually received by Niagara University, in addition to explaining all the various components that you articulated, also give Niagara University some sense as to the cost that's going to be associated with building these components?
I believe so, yep. I think there was a cost component in here. High-level cost estimate and preliminary layout for an electrolyzer-based hydrogen production system, compression, storage, blending, fuel cell dispensing
In
equipment.
your conversations with Niagara, have they indicated that assuming they can get the funds for it, they want to build it on their campus?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are there other questions for Richard or any other staff members from our board before we take a vote?
Sure.
Dennis?
So the hydrogen is a big issue. It's a major conversation within the Climate Action Council. A number of it is relative to whether or not it's even feasible to be placed in a natural gas system, because the properties of hydrogen is different than the properties of natural gas. So, without getting into silliness. Is National Fuel or National Grid involved in this study? Are they funding a portion of it as part of a demonstration? Because that's always what's being asked. Are the utilities involved in it? Because if the utilities are involved, there's more of an opportunity for replication. And the climate process needs data. We're kind of like speculating, and you don't want to speculate. You want to be able to have projects like this. But do we have the utilities actively engaged monetarily,
So
or just we're behind you?
this applicant has come asking for 100% of the study to be paid by NIPA. The implementation plan that could result from it would involve National Fuel Gas.
So it doesn't now.
Not here, no.
This
So
is
they're
just a
not
study
part of
part.
the study,
The study, yeah. So they're aware it's going on.
but they're not part of.
They're not part of this. They would be part of the implementation process.
Yeah, I certainly have a concern with that. It's in their interest, right? I mean, the whole idea of the climate process is a gas transition process, right? But what's not being put out there enough is, so what's the electric transition? If you're going to transition from something, you've got to transition to something. And the to something is a very constrained electric system. So the idea of these are good, but without the utilities involved directly, I question the replicability of something like this. They need to be more involved in this in order to provide the data.
Right.
But-
So they're not financially involved.
Right.
They're going to be doing the work, right?
They're doing the work. Their engineers are engineering are part of the engineering of the engineering study itself.
I believe so, yeah.
but we're not sure.
I can double check. I don't know who the vendor is exactly, but I'll have to double check.
Yeah, sometimes
So-
they
so
turn
they've been
into a
involved in-
vendor project, not a university project is my point.
They've been involved in all the discussions up right to today, quite frankly, so.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think the idea here is demonstrating how the hydrogen is blended with natural gas to reduce the CO, like NIPA did its own project down in Brentwood, right?
Yeah.
Injecting hydrogen in to reduce CO2 and seeing how far you can push the percentage before you run into issues, right, with brittleness and that kind of thing.
The university owns the natural gas system that's on the campus?
I believe so, yeah. It's part of their infrastructure. You're talking about so you have separate buildings all over the
Yeah.
campus that are,
But you're gonna put the gas in the system. In the gas system, right? Part of the assessment,
they're talking about injecting,
it into the
Into-
natural gas.
right,
pipe.
so, right, using an electrolyzer to generate green hydrogen and then injecting it. into the
Right.
system, Right. I believe.
But
right, that's
who
right.
are so I'd be, so they own their natural gas distribution system on the campus.
I believe so, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's interesting. And I'm good, I'm better. Because if it was being injected into a regulated natural gas piping system, then there would be more rules that we would have to concern ourselves.
So you talk
with.
about like distribution wide, like, for instance, National Fuel Gas entire distribution.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
they,
no, I don't think that's-
so my point is, if National Fuel is just delivering it to the gate of Niagara University, and then everything after that gate is owned by Niagara University, then the impact on the natural gas system from this type of demonstration is wholly the liability of the university and not the regulated and utility, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, I
kinda
mean,
under-
that
trying to
campus
understand.
has separate buildings all over. I mean,
Yeah,
I'd have
I
to
know.
check whether the ownership is, NFGs or NUs. My sense is that it's NUs, but, it's a private campus, right?
Yeah,
But you may have a different,
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I can check on it. I don't know that.
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
other questions for Richard in connection with this application? No, Deanna?
No.
Brenda? No, okay. Hearing none, I would like to call for a motion to approve staff's recommendation that this board make a recommendation to the NIPA board to fund the NU application in round 28. Paul has moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Deanna has seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Okay, I'm gonna abstain just because of what I know on the Climate Action Council. Does that cause a problem with the voting?
So we
I'm
have-
a little too deep into this.
That's fine. I appreciate your candor with that. I don't believe it causes a problem. We have 5 members. We have a quorum and we have a majority of the members voting in favor. So Karen, if you wouldn't mind, be sure that the minutes reflect the fact that all voted in favor except for Dennis, who abstained from this vote for reasons explained during the meetings. I believe that concludes round 28. In your board packet, our able staff proposed several dates for our meetings in the forthcoming year. I think they were all distributed to you, and I think they also sought feedback from you to be sure that we had full attendance to the extent possible. And so I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt the 2023 meeting schedule. If there are no
Move it,
reasons-
Brenda McDuffie.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dennis. Any questions or concerns with that before I call for a vote?
Well, June 6th is my birthday. Can we have like a beer?
It's your birthday, we'll have chocolate milk. I'll pay for it personally,
Okay,
but we will bring balloons and a hat for you, Paul.
all right.
You're welcome. All those in favor of
Aye.
adopting the meeting schedule?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Thank you. That motion passes unanimously as I expected that it would. Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for February 14, 2023. If there is no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Paul, seconded by Dennis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Karen, that motion passed unanimously as well. I'd like to thank those online for your attention and your help, and those in the room likewise. Until next
Thank you.
time.
Thank you,
All right,
everybody.
please take care. Thank you.
Bye.